Nobody saw it coming, not even Diddy. When his 83-year-old mother stepped into that courtroom and took the stand against her own son, everything changed. The air shifted. The trial, once predictable, spun into chaos. This wasn't a defense. This was a demolition of the lie. The courtroom transformed from routine to revolutionary in seconds. It began like any other day. Reporters typing updates, attorneys whispering strategy. Diddy appeared composed, flipping through notes like a man still in command. Then the doors creaked open. Janice Combs, Diddy's mother, walked in, 83 years old. Silent, steady. The gallery gasped. The jurors froze. Even the judge blinked, stunned. No one had expected her, let alone prepared for her. Diddy's mask cracked. His confidence faltered. Notes slipped through his fingers. His lawyers shifted, whispering frantically. This wasn't in the playbook. Janice didn't glance his way. Her steps were measured, her spine straight. She was not there as a mother, she was there as truth's final witness. And she knew what it would cost. Silence swallowed the room. She raised her hand, took the oath, her voice calm. No stutter, no fear. And in that instant, the courtroom realized something chilling. Diddy couldn't control this story. Because this voice was the one he'd never been able to silence. She didn't tremble. She didn't cry. Janice Combs sat down like she had been waiting for this moment her entire life. Her eyes never wavered. Not even once did she look at her son. The prosecutor's voice softened, aware of the gravity. "Mrs. Combs, thank you for being here." A single nod. Then she shattered the room's stillness. "I'm here because the truth needs to be told, no matter how painful." Shock echoed through the gallery. One juror looked down, visibly shaken. The judge leaned back, as if bracing for impact. Diddy clutched his attorney's sleeve, whispered something. The lawyer stood, then hesitated. Diddy tugged him back. "Don't let her speak." But it was too late. The truth was already walking through the door. This wasn't gossip, not an angry ex, not a former employee. This was the woman who'd raised him, defended him, believed in him. And now, she had chosen to break the silence. Because even a mother's love has a breaking point. At first, it sounded like memories. She spoke of struggle raising Diddy alone after his father's death. Working jobs, sacrificing everything. There was pride in her voice, a son who could light up rooms. But slowly, her voice changed. The warmth faded. Something darker crept in. Then came the shift. Janice described visits that made her uneasy. Staff that avoided eye contact. Rooms locked. Young women who looked lost. One crying as security walked her out. "It didn't feel right," she said. And the room froze. She spoke of 2008. An unannounced trip to Diddy's Miami home. A party had ended, but what she saw wasn't harmless fun. Staff were scrambling. Phones collected. Diddy was furious she'd come without warning. "I knew something was off," she said. And it wasn't the first time. Then came the pause. She lowered her eyes. "I had always been welcome in every part of his life. Until I wasn't." Her voice trembled. Not from fear, but from realization. She had missed the signs, and now she couldn't ignore them. By 2017, the accusation started. Janice had questions. She called him. "Is it true?" Diddy didn't blink. "They're lying. They want money. It happens to every powerful man." And she believed him because she needed to believe him. But that belief cracked. Then came 2023. Cassie filed her suit, and Janice couldn't stay silent. She met him privately, no lawyers, just mother and son. "I'm not here as the public. I'm here as your mother. Tell me the truth." "What?" he said broke her. "You don't build empires by playing by the rules. Sometimes, people get hurt. That's business." She broke down, but not loudly. Not a scene. Just quiet devastation. "That's not how I raised him," she whispered. "That's not business. That's not right." And just like that, the courtroom no longer saw a music mogul, they saw a mother's heartbreak. After that, Janice changed. Doubt became certainty. She watched closer, and in early 2024, she found it. During a visit to his home, she stepped into his office. On his desk, a document she wasn't meant to see. A list of women's names. Beside each notes, handled, potential problem. She confronted him. He snatched it away. It's business, he said. Don't worry about it. But she did worry, because the look in his eyes that flashed from childhood when he lied it was back. That night, she began writing everything down. Every memory, every sign. I had to see it on paper, she told the court, because I started wondering if I had protected him from consequences for too long. And what she saw in those notes, it terrified her. This wasn't an accident. It was a pattern, a system, and she had been blind to it until now, watching it form piece by piece without realizing she looked directly at the jury. I love my son. That was a line she never thought she'd cross. But Janice knew the truth couldn't stay buried any longer. Not while people were hurting. Not while silence equaled complicity. By the time she finished, the courtroom didn't just fall silent, it sat stunned. The jurors, once expressionless, now leaned forward, brows furrowed, some visibly wiping away tears. Even the court sketch artist had stopped drawing. Because this wasn't just a trial anymore, this was a mother dismantling the myth of her son in real time. But it wasn't over. The prosecution called their next witness, Dr. Margaret Chen, a family psychologist specializing in high-profile abuse and power dynamics. And what she revealed gave Janice's words devastating weight. What we witnessed today, she said, was rare. Most mothers remain silent or stand by their sons regardless. But when a mother like Mrs. Combs speaks out, it marks a deep, irreversible break, a moral tipping point. When love crashes into truth and truth wins, then came the evidence. The prosecution displayed scanned pages from Janice's handwritten notes on screens across the courtroom. Dr. Chen narrated the evolution, how the entries shifted from vague unease in 2008 to specific, detailed incidents by 2024. Early on, she said, Mrs. Combs made excuses: stress, pressure, celebrity life. But as time passed, the pattern emerged: manipulation, denial, control. That shift didn't come from impulse. It came from years of emotional labor and hard truth. She paused before driving it home. This wasn't just a mother with regrets. This was the only person who knew him before the power, the money, the name, shattering the illusion from the inside. And when someone that close says it's real, in that moment, you could feel it. The defense hadn't just taken damage. They had witnessed the exact moment the case cracked open. No one expected what happened next. After weeks of icy silence, of watching his lawyers battle every witness, of sitting emotionless through stories of pain, Diddy stood up. His attorney asked the court to allow him to speak. The prosecution objected, but the judge leaned forward and said, if Mr. Combs wishes to address the court, it must be under oath, subject to cross-examination. And then, Diddy said the words no one saw coming. Yes, Your Honor, I agree. You could feel the air being sucked out of the room. Diddy, the icon, the untouchable mogul, walked toward the witness stand with none of his usual bravado. No swagger, no sunglasses, just a man with nowhere left to hide. And when he spoke, it wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't defiant. It was the sound of something breaking. I listened to my mother yesterday, he said, voice low and cracked, and I realized I've been lying to myself for years. He began to unravel it all. How fame changed him. How success convinced him he was above consequence. Behind the money, the parties, the NDAs, I built something, a system, one designed to protect me and silence everyone else. He looked down. I told myself it was just business, that people knew the game. But when people can't say no, it's not a game, it's control. It's harm. The courtroom was paralyzed. His lawyers sat frozen, blindsided. This wasn't in the script. But he wasn't stopping. He confirmed it all: the threats, the intimidation, the cover-ups. I made the rules, he said. And in my world, that meant people got hurt. That's the truth. For the first time, Diddy wasn't the empire. He wasn't the brand. He was just a man finally cornered by his own actions and unable to look away. When he stepped down, the room still hadn't breathed. His attorneys immediately requested a private bench conference. The judge, prosecution, and defense disappeared into chambers. No one knew what was happening, but everyone knew it was seismic. When they returned, the judge looked out over the courtroom. The defendant has informed the court of his intention to change his plea. It landed like a detonation. The jurors blinked, speechless. The media scrambled. Even the victims, those who had spoken through tears and relived their nightmares, sat frozen in disbelief. The judge turned to Diddy. "Mr. Combs, are you making this decision knowingly, voluntarily, and without coercion?" Without flinching, he answered, "Yes, Your Honor. This is my decision." He turned to the gallery, to Janice, his mother, who sat motionless, expression unreadable. And then he said it. "After hearing my mother's testimony and facing what I've done, I can't keep lying. I accept responsibility." And just like that, decades of power collapsed, not with defiance, not with denial, but with surrender. The judge accepted the plea. Sentencing was set, but there were no cheers, no dramatic applause, just the sound of reality crashing down. Janice Combs stood in the front row, watching the son she raised being taken into custody. Her face didn't show victory. It showed heartbreak and strength, the kind of strength it takes to love someone enough to stop protecting their lives. The trial ended, but outside the courtroom, the world was just beginning to process the fallout. Within hours, the music industry scrambled. Record labels issued hasty statements condemning misconduct. Internal investigations were promised. Artists who once praised Diddy now deleted old photos and unfollowed him. Some were devastated, others claimed ignorance. But no one could look away anymore. The mask had shattered, not just from Diddy but from the culture that protected him. Old clips resurfaced. Interviews where people joked about things that no longer sounded funny. Behind-the-scenes moments took on disturbing new context. The internet lit up, not with memes but with reckoning. Diddy's downfall wasn't a lone explosion. It was the breach of a dam. And then, other voices began to rise. Women, men, from within his orbit and far beyond. People who'd spent years doubting their own experiences, now stepping forward, telling stories they once feared would be ignored. This wasn't a scandal. It was an avalanche. The reckoning had arrived. For fans, the betrayal cut deep. Some felt complicit. Others admitted they'd heard the rumors and looked away. The guilt was personal, the shock collective. The question repeated like a drumbeat. How many more? How long have we allowed power to bury truth? Diddy had no stage left, no script to flip. No PR team could spin this. The empire had collapsed, and at the center of the rubble stood the one voice he never imagined would break him, his mother's. Not with anger, not with vengeance, but with truth. In the end, it wasn't the prosecutors. It wasn't the evidence. It wasn't even the headlines. It was Janice Combs, the woman who raised him, the woman who stood alone in a courtroom and refused to lie, because real love doesn't cover for injustice, it confronts it. Diddy built an empire on silence, power, and control. But empires built that way always fall. On sentencing day, he stood not as a mogul, but as a man who finally faced the damage he spent his life trying to hide. He apologized to the women, to the people he betrayed, to his family, and to the one person who never stopped loving him but chose truth anyway. Love without truth, Janice had said, isn't love at all. That sentence didn't just end a trial. It started a conversation the world can no longer ignore.